Death is the one story every life shares, but the conversations around it rarely happen. Welcome to the show that opens the doors to the funeral profession. The people, the stories, and the truths most never hear. This is As the Hearse Turns.
Hello.
It is Saturday afternoon, and we're about 4 minutes early, so we'll let some people jump in with us here for a few minutes.
And we are streaming directly from As the Hearse Turns right now.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
All right.
So we can share that out.
So we have about 9 people on right now. 11. Hi, Barbara. James. Let's see who else is on. Christine's on. It's pretty cool on a Saturday that people want to talk about funeral service.
And just hang out. And
Jenny? Yeah. So you had your run this morning down in Delta.
Well, Skylar had the run. I was there as a supporter of said run. But you know what? I mean, there was probably, for the 5K, it was so it was Stewartstown and the schools down in that area. And I think there were 150 kids that were registered runners. And then there were a couple parents. So there was about 300 people running through Main Street this morning. So it was really, really cool. There was a
5K, and was there like a fun run for the kids?
No, the 5K was for the kids. The whole event is for kids.
5K.
And what was the time? Let me look at the video. 32 minutes and 11 seconds.
That's pretty good.
That's what I said.
Sleeping? Is she napping right now?
She is, because we've got a late evening over in Gettysburg tonight too. So I was like, you got to take a nap, because if not, you're going to be scary to deal with soon. But yeah, all the kids, I think it was like 3rd through 5th grade, from all the different schools down there. Cameron puts on, and it's a running club that each school has, and they train for the 5K. Nice. Well, I didn't think about that. And last night I was telling Skylar, and she's like, yeah, I'll go. I want to run. And I'm thinking, okay, she's never ran like that before.
Yeah.
So, I mean, she was in Converse's running. She wasn't in like sneakers or anything.
Maybe you got to get her a pair of running shoes. And
that's what I said. If this is what you want to do it. It's, have at it.
Yeah. So it's 1:00. People are hopping on. How many people are you showing that you?
I see 50 in the live.
Okay.
We've got a couple people commenting, because you got to realize we're also streaming to YouTube as well.
Got it.
So like the Cozy Moose, that's a YouTube comment. Happy Catterday.
I was wondering what that was. Beautiful day in Colorado. Connie's in Colorado. Connie, you guys have some good mountains to ski and snowboard on.
A lot of comments about your hair today.
It's because it's straight. I never wear it straight. This is the first time I've actually worn it straight since I cut it, and I think I really like it. I don't think I want to curl it anymore. Thanks, Betty June.
Hi from Boots in Yorkshire, England. They're across the pond. Susan, I wish you a happy Mother's Day.
Thank you, Susan. I appreciate that. Well, you want to get into it?
Yeah, I mean, so somebody did send some handwritten questions that I do want us to get to today.
Yeah.
They messaged.
I can zip through those quick.
Yeah, you want to knock those out, and then we'll just we'll get into the nitty-gritty.
Let me find them. I screenshotted them, and then I deleted them. Hold on. Let me go back to the messages. It was from Jen. Okay.
Yeah.
And Jen's coming to one of our open houses. So I think she's local. Okay. She wants to know, when you pick up a person, do you always have on a mask? I personally will only wear masks I will only wear a mask in certain situations, like decomp situations. When you get a person, do you embalm them first and then and get them all ready for the family and then put them in the cooler. After someone's been embalmed, in most cases, they don't need to go back into the cooler or the refrigerator. And then we don't dress them right away. I usually wait until the day before funeral services.
Yeah.
She wants to know, after the body is embalmed, do you hear a pop in the retort from the embalming fluid being flammable? Chris, that would be one. No. When embalming, how do you know what kind of fluid and how much to use? You really don't know until the person's in front of you and you've done a thorough analysis. It's not a one size fits all.
No, it's case specific.
Were any charges filed against the person that had all the bodies at the funeral home in Georgia?
Yes.
Do you have a mannequin? Oh, this is a good one. Do you have a mannequin with veins and arteries showing so we can see what the actual process is for embalming? We've talked about this.
We have talked about this, and we have what we've talked about doing, which I think we really need to do. But I have looked up, and there are full anatomical mannequins that we could get with a venous system, muscular system, everything. But again, we're getting yelled at for putting As the Hearse Turns merchandise out. So to try and raise money for a mannequin that costs about $8,000, I can only imagine what we'd be yelled at for.
Jen, we might have to wait for the mannequin. When do you drain the fluids out of the body? Is it right away or is it gradual? Typically, when you make your incision, you can start draining right away as you start injecting. Sometimes it takes a little bit to get some drainage going.
Well, and the other thing, you can do controlled drainage depending on your method of drainage. You can have continuous drainage with angular forceps, or you can use a drain tube where you can stop the drainage to build pressure in the circulatory system. But that's going to be the preference of the embalmer. Some people swear by drain tubes, others angular forceps. I'm an angular forcep person.
Me too.
So,
where does all the blood and fluids go when you drain them?
Down.
Same places where everything else goes.
It's like a little urinal at the bottom, and it flushes, and it goes right back into the septic system.
And people think that this is, how awful it is that, blood and body fluids are going down into that little, I say, holding tank.
Yeah.
But what happens when a woman's on her menstrual cycle? Let's be real.
Well, what happens when you cut yourself? What's the first thing you're going to do? Yeah. If you cut yourself at home, you go right to the sink and turn on the faucet and run your hand over it, and that blood goes right into the sink.
I'm laughing because Skylar's watching, and she says, "Hey, Skylar, you're supposed to be napping."
What is her freaking? What is that cat? I've never seen her little thing.
Do you also do pet ceremonies as well? And is that the same process as a person? No.
No,
we are not a pet funeral home. How many people here can embalm? And is it just a director's job? We have 2 embalming stations at our new funeral home. Chris has one down at Wagner, Elfner, and Harkins. And yes, licensed funeral directors should be the only one embalming, or licensed embalmers. There are many funeral homes, though, that allow for unlicensed individuals in the prep room to embalm, right?
Yeah. And I mean,
we're going to have a brutally honest conversation today, guys.
So Catherine's going to remain professional, and I'm going to try my best to do so. But I'm just tired of the BS.
Yeah.
And
we got some of that this week.
A lot of that. And and you know what? I'm not even going to say surprisingly, because I'm no longer surprised by it, but the folks that gave us the most grief are other licensees.
Yeah. Who like to keep their head in the sand.
Yeah. And I mean, if that's how you want the status quo to be, that's fine. Go stay in your lane.
Right.
No one's saying you have to follow us. No one's saying, you have to, sit there. But what ticks me off the most, though, is that they'll send you a direct message, way to go, awesome support, or whatever like that. But it's like, why are you being two-sided or two-faced? You're being one way in a direct message to us, but then I guess because you want to save face because not everyone agrees with our methodology or our platform, but then you want to come out in public in the comments and stuff like that. Like, come on, let's be real.
Yeah.
Stop. Like, at least when you come to talk to you or I, what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
I'm the same person off social media that I am on. But let's finish the questions.
Okay. How many years of training does it take to be a director? It depends. It took me 4 years total, just because I kept failing my national boards, but I got through it.
School's supposed to be 18 months?
Mine was 2 years, and then I had a year internship that I had to do. So I guess it also depends too on the state that you're in.
Well, it depends. So if you think, an associate's degree, though, depending on how many general eds that you have to do, what you have to transfer in, those types of things is what you got to factor in. But like for me at John A. Gupton, where they teach you how to use instruments. You're welcome. There was everything was included into the prerequisites, and if you took full course load, you can complete the program in 18 months. But it's going to be different for every person. Every state's going to require a different internship or an apprenticeship and different requirements before you can get full licensure.
Yeah.
I'd say 2 to 3 years.
Yeah. Roughly. She says, my friend's daughter wants to do hair and nails for a funeral home. How can she get started? I would recommend just calling around and seeing if there's a need for that in the community. But personally, at our funeral home, we do all of that as licensed directors. Now, as a licensed director, Chris, I'm not trying to throw you under the bus, but you're not going to sit there and style ladies' hair. You're going to bring in a hairdresser most likely. But for someone like me, I'm comfortable doing hair. Yeah.
Most of the time, like I will do nails. I can do some mean nails, man. Yeah, I'll be honest with you on that. I've learned that one. But hair, unless you want every single person that comes through that's a lady to look like Barbara Bush, you need to let me bring in my hairdresser. Okay, I'm being completely honest. I'm all about education and transparency. Hey.
Yeah. Where do you get all of your supplies at when you need to replenish your stock? Well, it just depends. I mean, we use mortuary supply companies. I'll use Dodge, Vischer Supply. Office supplies I get on Amazon. I'm not sure what supplies we're talking about, but yeah, we have different vendors that we use. And then she says, if you get someone from another place and they leak things from wherever they can, do you start the process all over? We'll do follow-up embalming. We'll just, depending on what it is,
Is she talking about like skin slip or skin break or orifices?
I don't know. There's topical embalming products that we can use. It depends. It depends. But I think I think there's, and I use the word misconception a lot when we're talking, but I do think that there's a misconception that, we're constantly using AV plugs, which full transparency, A stands for anal, V stands for vaginal. Are we plugging those orifices for every single person? I've never used an AV plug on anyone.
And here's the thing. If you were to take, it looks like Jen's actually in the comments here.
Yeah. Yep. Is it improper embalming? I mean, it's a shoddy embalming job sometimes. You get people sent in from out of state and you have to follow up or, reaspirate, I guess. But
rule of thumb for me is if someone is in my care, no matter what, my very first stop coming into the building in the morning and before I leave for the end of the day is through the prep room. Mm-hmm. You're just constantly checking. If it's over the weekend, I've again, that's that whole funeral director anxiety, but I've spent time. It's like, all right, I'm driving in the car, I'm going down, I just need to check on this person, make sure everything's all right.
Yeah,
because I mean, if you're concerned or you need to be able to adjust things. You can't just say, okay, well, I'll see it back on Monday. So that's where having other directors, having stair step shifts and stuff like that are a blessing, because then someone else can go in and say, hey, yep, everything's good, or this is what's going on. And everybody that all of us, like if you were to come behind me or I were to come behind you and need to do something because something's going, not the way we intended, we've all worked together long enough to where we know what we need to do to correct things.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm seeing a comment from Marla at the bottom, and I think this is a great segue into what we wanted to talk about. Today. So she says, ignore the BS. We aren't stupid. Keep calling out dishonest folks. They, of course, will never like your information you share with us. Thanks for keeping this real. Hope you keep this going for everyone. We're not stopping. If anything, this is just going to continue to grow, but we're not going anywhere. So let's get into it.
So, I think, well, let's see. I was sent a direct message on Tuesday. Was it Tuesday? Tuesday or Wednesday? And if anybody that follows our funeral home pages, I have decided to do a lead generation campaign and offer 2 service options at a reduced discounted price. And the video that was sent to us is of another funeral director down south. And this funeral director, is pretty much, it started off very strange along the lines of, I don't want to talk about anybody. They're out of our market, this, that, and the stuff. And kudos for them for being courageous enough to put their pricing out there like this. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's not going, but it went sideways really quick. And to say we're playing games and stuff like that based off of our, offering this sale is just, it's BS. I mean, if we want to talk about playing games, because as we continue to dig into this, we find out that this firm, this gentleman, he offers a $500 direct cremation, all inclusive $500 direct cremation, unless he's got to walk upstairs. In which case, he's then charging that family $100 per step. Yep. So I know, because me and Michelle were talking about it the other night, and I pass away upstairs in the bedroom. She calls this person shows up, and they come into our home, and then there's 13 stairs up to that landing. So that's $1,300.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's not like I have 1,100 stairs in my house, but I mean, that takes us to $1,600 for a direct cremation that he advertised to you that was $500. And if that information isn't divulged at the very beginning, or he's not asking that question before coming out on that reception, then the family's blindsided until they come in and sit down to make arrangements and they get the contract. So who's playing games?
Linda says, what does going upstairs mean? This funeral director is literally saying that if he has to go up steps, like up a stairway to bring you back downstairs to the transfer vehicle, and you have 5 steps going from your first floor to the second floor, and you're in a bedroom on the second floor, you're getting charged an additional $500 because he charges $100 per step. So people need to understand that you might get this, great $500 price. That's what it seems. But when you get in there to do the arrangements, that's not what it is. You're not paying $500. You're paying additional on top of that. And this is how they get people in the door.
So somebody asked about, the $900 cremations and the $500 cremations. And I ran and managed and oversaw a cremation society. Absolutely. Now, the pricing methodology behind the $1,400, $1,500 direct cremations are, you're going to make it up in volume. Now, I will say our staff, was about a staff totally, maybe about 40, 45, 50 people. Okay. Because if you want to handle that volume, you have to have the staff to handle that volume. But when you turn around and a $500 provider is a staff of one, that's a red flag. Because there's no way they're going to be able to do the volume and handle that individually themselves, even if their wife is working with them, or they got to call in an extra set of muscles. Those are red flags. Those are situations where things can be overlooked. And here's the thing. I'm not saying that this person is doing anything wrong, in regards to how they handle a loved one, how they care for a loved one, because I've never seen this person's work that he puts out in regards to embalmings or things like that. I'm just saying the sleaziness and the playing games is the pricing type of stuff. That's just wrong.
And I also want to say too that we talk about these single operator crematories and low price red flag. There are wonderful single operator crematories out there.
Yeah,
there are, but there's always going to be a bad apple in every bunch, and we saw that with Tri-State Crematory. We've seen it with the funeral home down in Maryland that Back to Nature or whatever it was. Heaven Bound. Sorry. Yeah.
So Cindy, apparently it is the reception of your loved one into their care. It's all inclusive is what is said. So all inclusive. So let me tell you something. And everybody, I want you to get a pen and a piece of paper and write this down. If a funeral home tells you all inclusive, and then you show up and then they say, well, now you got to add this or you got to add that, it's not all inclusive, and you need to hold their feet to the fire. And then what you want to ask them to do is to break down their package, itemized, and see what that really totals up to be. As long as it matches exactly with their itemized GPL, they're being upfront with you.
Yeah.
If things don't add up, one, they're not understanding their business, and second of all, that what they're doing is they're trying to pull a fast one. They're trying to put so much information that it's a data overload to where you're not being able to pick up what's going down. And it's just, again, this is why, irregardless of what people say and how we present things, is that I'm not here to be nice. I'm here to call it as I see it. And if you're going to be sleazy, used carsman, salesperson, it's messed up. It's just, that's not what it's about.
Cozy Moose says here, when he said reception, I kind of wondered if that meant you do your own transfer and drop your loved one off at his funeral home. Now, early on, when I started on social media, I would get a lot of pushback from people when I used the term tool in the prep room. Instrument is the proper terminology, but for those who aren't in the business, it sounds like when I say instrument, maybe I'm playing a violin or saxophone in the prep room, and that's not the case. Chris got some flack a couple weeks ago because he also said tool. We are using tools to do our job. Yes, are they instruments, whatever, but we also speak in a way that is relatable to the general public, that they understand. So when you say reception, that sounds like we're having a party at the funeral home with food and drink. It's a transfer or removal. Keep it simple. Don't try and fluff it up to make it seem like it's, something it's not. Let's not confuse the consumer.
Yeah. Like you suture, you don't sew, come on.
Yeah. Jason says ligature, not string.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thread. Yeah. I agree.
It's like, if that's what you got to come at me with, then please.
Right.
Please.
Well, and I didn't appreciate coming. I don't know. I kind of felt like a mother bear in that moment when you shared with me what was being said about the pricing. I had seen this individual's name in an embalmers group that I'm in last week. In fact, I had screenshotted and I had already researched this guy before he came after you for the pricing. So when he was talking about, pricing
Moral,
and this
ethical.
and that and how we're, taking advantage of you, I'm thinking, hold on, dude. You took a picture of someone's loved one without the family's consent
Yep.
and you posted it in a Facebook group, and then you had the audacity to defend what you did in a Google review when the family left a Google review for you, and you completely gaslit the family.
Well, he lied.
Yes.
He flat out lied. It was leaked by him. His name is on that's the profile poster.
Yes.
So don't come about being moral and ethical when you're out there lying to the families that you're supposed to be serving.
Yeah. Yep.
But the $500 caskets, I mean, if you're absolutely, from what he's saying, not you're only selling them at wholesale, it's possible, depending on the manufacturer, which Matthews is only 15. The Matthews plant is only 15 minutes from his funeral home. So it's probably Matthews Caskets is what I would assume. So I don't know. I'm just very surprised. And my whole thing is you cannot sit. So for someone to chastise our pricing, they're different business models. They're in different demographics, different areas. So for you to be able to do $500, you must have zero overhead whatsoever. And I don't know what your crematory fee is. So you've got to pay your crematory unless he has his own crematory. But again, to try and, the insurance, the gas bill, things like that, it's just a little strange.
That'll be temporary.
Absolutely.
You can't sustain that.
No. The only way is if you would have to be doing, what, 2,500, 3,000 calls a year?
And can one person?
Absolutely not. That's where you start getting urns of cement returned to somebody.
Yeah. So.
But let's talk about our own backyard.
Yeah. I'd like for you guys, for those of you listening, I see we have 123 people on right now. Who here is from York County, Pennsylvania? And while we're waiting for some of those responses to come through, for people confirming that they're in York, maybe we can go through some of the comments. Nicole says you're all doing something right when people come after you for these things. Could it be business jealousy?
Well, and you know what I'm really surprised about? And again, even today, if you go back, we just started the Bonfire merchandise platform for 2 shirts and 1 coffee mug. And we were told that because of us doing that and the podcast and having the name As the Hearse Turns, that we are cheapening the funeral profession. And I think I told you earlier, if we're cheapening the funeral profession, I'm going to be cheapening it every single day and just louder about it, because they're upset because we're branding something, and the name, it gets attention. That's why it's an awesome play on the soap opera. And let's be honest, when is funeral industry not a soap opera or sometimes a 4-alarm dumpster fire?
Yeah.
Because it is. All right. So Chris is from Felton.
Yeah.
Rena, Courtney, Jen. You're from a GPL. Oh, well. That's got to be, yeah.
Doris dropped off a gift at the funeral home for me yesterday. It was a bunch of Laffy Taffy and a leopard teddy bear, and it's sitting on my desk. Doris is amazing. She's amazing.
So we've got a couple people from York County.
Yeah. This show or podcast session, whatever we want to call it, platform. This is not scripted. I'm not reading from a teleprompter. I'm just kind of talking. So I did take some notes because I want to stay on track with this, and I want to also be cautious with what I say to a certain extent. Here in York County, I think it's important for people to know that, and I think we know this as human beings, there are people that can put on a really good show. You know, they drive the nice car, they wear the nice suit, or, you know, the nice clothes, and they're great in public, but behind closed doors, they have secrets. And there's something that I've known about for years. All of us in York County in funeral service know about this. No one has ever really talked about it openly for fear of retaliation, because this individual does retaliate and they use intimidation tactics when people want to go public with certain things. But I was at the gym this morning. I was really giving this some thought, especially after the gentleman posted the video about Chris's pricing and critiquing that. And, you know, of course, we know what we know now about that individual's background. And I said to Chris, I think this is something I'm ready to talk about and shed some light on. So, you know, I'm never going to water myself down to just make people more comfortable. What you see with me on here is what you get at the funeral home. And we got some pushback this week on As the Hearse Turns. And I think if you thought that we were just a bunch of boring funeral directors, maybe you know now we actually have a sense of humor and we can have fun with things. But I got a message from another funeral director, and it was on our As the Hearse Turns, and it started out very nice. You know, she said, you have a beautiful family and a beautiful new location, and you really you need to stop stooping so low. And what she meant, I guess she was referring to some of the goofy videos and the posts that we put up on As the Hearse Turns yesterday, which for me was a little therapeutic because it's been a really long week. Right. But I think stooping low is when you know about things in funeral service and you put your blinders on and you pretend they're not happening.
Yes.
And you mislead families. And so I'm going to read an article to you, and this is an article that was posted back in 2017. And I want to just say that this is public record. This is something that anyone can find. This is a owner of a well-known funeral home here in York. And I'm going to keep them anonymous, but I'm going to read the article. And I also want to say that I'm really uncomfortable right now reading this, but it needs to be read. So they listed the person's name in this news article, their age, and the city where they lived. So-and-so has been charged with indecent assault and indecent exposure. According to probable cause affidavit, on September 21st, a man reported to state police that blank, this is a funeral home owner, funeral director, had masturbated in front of him in the bathroom of Indian Lake Resort. The man told police that blank then non-consensually grabbed the man's genitals over his pants. A preliminary hearing is scheduled for 10:30 on November 29th. Now, again, this is from back in 2017. But let me ask you guys this. Do you think that this is the only time something like this has happened? Or do you think maybe this was the only time that they were caught? So this is someone that had no control over their actions towards a person who was living. Do you feel comfortable sending your loved one to a funeral home like that? You want to send your child there? Or your father? I wouldn't want to.
My concern is, again,
and we are not a health board.
right.
We are in death care. We are not in health care. And so
The license can be renewed.
the license can be renewed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're talking, the community continues to return and patronize this person, but yet we get called everything under the sun, told we're horrible people, and we're cheapening the funeral profession by calling out the bad performers. But the bad performers are continually rewarded. So the only way for things to truly change is by us to continue to call out the bad performers and hold them accountable, because nobody else will. And sadly, there's probably folks in the community that don't know about this and may have patronized this establishment. That's the sad part.
It's a well-known funeral home. Name is in the paper every single day.
Let's just take the details, put it in the Google bar, and if you want the information there. It is public record, so there's no slander. And I'll tell you this: let somebody try and intimidate me or you, because I mean, you don't want to bark up that tree.
Yeah, and I struggle with this, and again, everyone in funeral service knows about this. Even the one accountant we use, we were talking about it the other day on the phone, and he's like, everyone knows in funeral service, but the general public doesn't know. And this person is so good at putting on a show for people.
Yeah.
And you see him out in public, he looks like a nice man. You say hi, shake hands. But I've had people come up to me and say, "Oh, I'm friends with so and so, and do you know him? He's also a funeral director." And I think, are you really truly friends with him? Obviously not that good of a friend, because you would know about this.
Yeah. And just so some of the comments, I want to make it very clear. This was not with a decedent. This was against just another person in a public restroom. This was not at the funeral home or anything like that.
However,
yeah,
I want to touch on this too. There is a local organization. It's a grief and loss center for children that severed ties with this funeral director a couple years ago. So I put the word children in there, and they severed ties. It's because there's rumors out there.
Nicole asked, and again, this goes back to the board there was nothing for the board to be able to act on, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Again, this is where it takes.
You got to do your research, you guys.
Yeah. Know who you're dealing with.
And at this funeral home, they have, it's not the lowest cost provider, but they do lower cost cremations. And again, there are risks, I think, with low cost. There are people in funeral service that have no business being in funeral service.
Yep.
I can't stress that enough. And there are people out there that might not care for Chris and I. I know there's people in our local community that just don't like me, and that's okay. But I'm always going to be transparent and honest with you. And what was ironic is, again, I've known about this gentleman for years now. I started kind of touching on this about a year ago on our social media, just saying, there's some unethical activity that happens here in York County. But I just totally lost my train of thought. What was I saying?
That you started touching on this about a year ago, that there's unethical behavior in York County.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll come back to me. But yes, I know that there are people out there that just, they don't care for us and our transparency. But so yes, I got a call from a vendor that we work with a couple weeks ago, and she had just recently met with a family. And this family had shared with her that this particular funeral director was talking poorly about Nathan and I in our funeral home, and said that we're going to fail miserably, and we've opened up this new location and we're not going to succeed there. And so I'm not retaliating by any means by coming out with this. I've been talking about this for about a year now. But what I will say is this: our business could fail, but I could still put my head down on my pillow at night and sleep well, knowing that I never did anything.
But everything ethically. Absolutely.
Yep.
And then Carrie put up a comment, Catherine, you know all about my misleading with another funeral home. Broke my heart, but thankful for Wagner, Elfner, and Berg.
Carrie's awesome. We love Carrie.
So let me, again, like I said, today is going to be the day for the gloves to come off. So was it the same firm who family called for pricing, were provided pricing, but then took it upon theirself to then go transfer the loved one out of the place of death back to their facility when that family did not give them permission? And then when that family went to the other funeral home they chose to use, that funeral home couldn't receive from the facility because the decedent wasn't there.
Yeah,
and then held the body hostage.
I got a call from someone at this other funeral home, and they said, "What do we do? He's not releasing this decedent to us. He has told the family that you need to pay in full. I'm going to sue your asses.
Yeah.
I'm going to have my lawyer contact you, and I'm not doing anything until I'm paid." That's considered kidnapping. You can't do that.
You don't have permission to take the decedent.
You can't do that. And you don't talk to a family like that.
Guys, and let me give you a little bit of, continue writing your notes on how to hold funeral homes accountable. If that were to ever happen to you, you do not have to pay that funeral home. They cannot if they will not release your loved one, get the authorities involved. Yeah. They cannot hold the loved one hostage. And then Linda said, you pay for what you get. One inexpensive, you may very well get low quality. This is probably we're not talking about the $500 guy anymore. This firm is probably what are we saying on average, Catherine? 20,000 or more for a funeral service?
Oh no.
He's less than that?
Definitely not. Okay. Less for sure.
But it's not 5,000. It's not $500 cremations, and it's not, $2,000 funerals.
No.
So it's not that. It's a low class. And I don't want to say low class. Low class is horrible. It's not a.
It is a reputable, well-known funeral home in York County with multiple locations. Oh, did I just say that?
Hmm. And there was no board. No, there was not. So you got to understand, folks, the way our licensing boards are designed is that they're really more empowered to enforce statute or regulations, not laws. Now, had maybe this person been criminally charged and found guilty and prosecuted, maybe. I love Tim. Tim's my buddy. He's sending text messages to us. But it's one of those things to where maybe if there were criminal charges that were actually held up and the person was found guilty, and at that point, because I know when we renew our license, we have to disclose in the questionnaire, have you been found guilty, or are you currently pending charges? When we renew our licenses, maybe at that point something different can happen. So is someone's pocket so deep that they keep buying themselves out of trouble? I mean, I don't know. Guys, you all are well-informed adults. You guys can put the pieces together here.
Yeah.
And make your own decisions. But the main reason Catherine wants to talk about this, and we've decided to talk about this, is do your homework. I said it the other day in one of my coffee conversations. Don't just trust someone because they're here telling you something. If you Google my name, have at it. Google Catherine, have at it. I have nothing to hide.
I was bad when I was younger. I'm not going to lie.
if I got caught for half the crap I did, it's like, oh my gosh.
See, that's the problem is you didn't get caught. I did.
I got caught every once in a while. If my mother's in here, she'll tell you, man, there was back in the day where you had to walk. I was very well acquainted with, remember the old Jordache belts that had like studs on them?
Yeah.
My rear end was very well acquainted with that belt. So I got caught for my fair share. Let's see.
Give me 1 second. I want to go grab my water. I just realized I didn't have it.
Okay. I'll wait for Catherine to come back and answer that one for you, Michael. I'm not 100% sure on that. So unprofessional. I wouldn't send a dog to that funeral, Debbie. I mean, the problem is people don't know, or and this is why, again, people just need to know who they're dealing with. Be honest about yourself. The main thing at that point, the person should have just bowed. You know what I mean? Bowed out gracefully as you can out of that situation, and take accountability. But a lot of people are afraid to take accountability anymore and take ownership for their actions. There's always a reason why somebody did something, and that's where, and I mean, we could go down a total rabbit hole on that with victim shaming, victim blaming, and making it, well, this would have never happened if you weren't wearing that type of outfit or something like that. Being a father of a daughter, that's the type of stuff that scares me in society. But those are the types of things that, people just need to know who they are dealing with. But Catherine, Michael asked, he said, wait a minute. So you're telling me he was never charged and never convicted, but yet you take them down? Interesting.
You take them downtown.
No, he's so... Huh? He's because we're bringing it to light because he was never charged or convicted. So we're bad because we're bringing this to light or talking about it, is what I'm interpreting this comment as.
Well, Michael, I know someone
in the paper.
I know someone personally that sued him because of the statute of limitations had passed, so they couldn't sue for what they should have sued for. Yeah, I know someone personally that was sexually molested by him.
And yes, the owner of a very well-known funeral home.
Yep. And I wasn't going to say that, but now that we're being told that we're bad for talking about this,
again, Google funeral director, sexual SA, York County. And if you can read, you can put the facts together.
Yeah. And there are families out there that they send their children there.
Exactly. Linda, right there.
Yeah.
If it was a doctor or a home contractor or a babysitter, everybody would want to know. Everybody.
Yep.
Irregardless.
Yeah. And we're going to continue talking about things like this. We need to bring light to these individuals in funeral service that have no business being in funeral service. It's concerning. It really is concerning. But
well, I think the other thing is, and we again have talked about this before, the content and the platform for As the Hearse Turns is separate and different from the content that we put out on the funeral home pages.
Mm-hmm.
They're one, this is a separate business, it's a separate entity. It has nothing to do with Wagner, Elfner, and Harkins or Wagner, Elfner, and Berg Funeral Home. This is different. And we designed it that way because we knew this would be where we were going to really talk about things that nobody wants to talk about. And we've done that so that the followers that want to follow on the funeral home side of things can. And if they choose to come here, they can as well. There's nothing saying you have to do both, please. Because for folks to say that because our content has changed, that we're cheapening ourselves, that we're lowering ourselves to someone's standard. So again, I think I've said it before. Michelle has always said and told me, it's one of those situations to where if you just sit there and watch something bad happen and you do nothing about it or try to stop it, you're just as guilty because you're choosing not to do something.
Yeah.
You're being compliant, complacent, whatever you would want to say. So it's very important to understand those differentials.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to put funny stuff out and humorous stuff? Absolutely. Because if you're going to come at us for something, but then you've got skeletons in your closet that are publicly available for people to see, we're going to bring you to the carpet. We're going to hold you accountable. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah.
Because the consumers don't know how to. Our families don't know how to. But you know what? I sure as hell do. And Catherine's not afraid to do it either.
Yep.
So Karen says, it's too bad they don't have something governing them in like that, like the insurance or nurse can do something wrong while practicing nursing and of course get in trouble for that. Even if they've got a DUI or something outside of practicing nursing, and the Board of California will still take action against you or at least put you on probationary status because that comes under unprofessional conduct. Yeah. And this is where, in order for things to change, the legislator has to be able to change things. And here's the other thing, guys. The boards will not just act unless there's a formal complaint filed.
Yeah, but unfortunately, there's a lot of corruption in society. Doesn't matter what business you're in. When you have deep pockets and you're in bed with certain people, literally and figuratively, that also helps people get away with certain things.
Mm-hmm. It's all about who you know. It really is.
Yeah.
And this is where the strongest message that can be sent to the folks and the bad apples is don't use them. Don't utilize them. Don't put money in their pocket to be able to continue to fund their maliciousness or their bad habits. Hit them where it hurts. Hit them in their pocket.
Yeah. Yeah, Carrie told me about this situation. So Carrie, confirm, was this your mother?
Mom's body.
Yes. Okay. So this funeral home went to one of our local hospitals, and I guess they brought Carrie's mom into their care, and it was Christmas Eve, and they said that they needed the money up front, or
not even taking an insurance assignment.
I don't know.
So she says, what happened to me was crazy. The funeral home didn't want to help me do the legwork with life insurance.
Yeah, something seems odd.
They called me on Christmas Eve and told me I needed to pay $17,000 in order for them to do anything with Mom's body. They told me they could only keep her 10 days, so I needed to do something immediately. So I called your Wagner, Elfner, and Berg. You guys picked her up and brought her to your funeral home and were able to get the life insurance paid to your business. And it was, I guess that's the character limit.
And I don't know all the specifics, only because this happened under the previous ownership before we bought the funeral home, but Carrie had shared this with me.
Okay.
But they wanted money like then. And like, I think she was kind of frantic because it's Christmas Eve. You can only do so much on Christmas Eve. And I guess then she called.
As long as you tell, here's the thing. We want to, again, we are here to serve. We are here to help, but we have to understand where the contract is either going to be settled from or who's going to take financial responsibility for that. And sometimes those conversations can seem a little abrupt or a little abrasive, but there have been many times that we've been burnt and we haven't been paid. And, funerals already taken place and things like that. So there's tactful ways to ask that question, and a good seasoned funeral director will know how to do that.
Yeah.
But to say I'm not doing something until you pay, and that's just crazy. Either the funeral home is hurting for funds and needed funds right then and there, because if you're not using a processing agency like advanced funeral funding or a claim check or something like that, and you can't wait to get paid, there's bigger underlying issues there. That's very concerning.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what we would do. We would just do the phone call, verify that the policy is in force, that we're dealing with the correct beneficiary, and you would probably sign an insurance assignment form saying, okay, this amount of money is going to be paid directly to the funeral home, and the rest gets paid to the beneficiary, and you're done. You're done. There's no reason to stress a family out. It's not, unless people, again, if you're running a $500 joint and you got to have this and got to have that. I'd be curious to see what that gentleman's terms of payments is. Are we offering a 30-day line of credit, or do you expect to be paid at bedside with your card reader? Because I've seen that before too, where your loved one is either in the recliner, in the bed, or God forbid on the floor, and it's not the funeral director that's coming out. They normally they had the transfer team or whatever, and they say, okay, how are you going to handle the fees? Well, we're going to pay for. Okay, well, they pull out their phone and their Square reader, and they're running their card before they even pick the loved one up off the floor. That's what you're dealing with these people. Like, they're going to sit there and they're going to preach morality, and they're going to give you the best service and that under the sun. But come on, I mean, I can get on a soapbox.
Oh, Carrie. Dakota's great.
Dakota's the man.
Yeah. Well, and let's talk about these direct disposers or cremation societies. And I think maybe you're comfortable talking about it. Yeah. You worked for a cremation society, and when you would get a call for someone that had passed, before you even went out to the home, you guys needed paid up front. And not only that,
but for a house call.
Okay.
So my policy was, because I was the manager, if it hospital, coroner, anatomy board, any place where the loved one was able to be sheltered legally until the contract was settled or payment was made, we would not dispatch. Because again, there was a lot of situations where sometimes people have called full service funeral homes at the time, and they were told, cremation is X, and they couldn't afford that. Well, then when they call us, we would find out our price. Okay, that's fine. But then they would never show up for arrangements.
Right.
And then there's nothing I can do with the loved one. I then have to follow, because in Maryland, it's not, a medical examiner won't help you. I've then got to go to the court, have our attorney fight to allow us to be able to perform disposition. And we're talking ridiculous money. So we would not now, if it's a house call or a hospice where there was times and things like that, we would have the conversation, let them know what the expectation would be, is that, when you do come in for arrangements, we would expect to, have everything handled. And a lot of the time, I want to say 99.9% of the families that were served through a cremation society or a direct disposal, through a cremation society, were handled virtually electronically through different software systems and capabilities. So they were never truly ever coming into the funeral home. They would only have to come into the funeral home when their loved one was ready to go home. Now, there is a difference between direct disposer and cremation society, technically. Okay. Those cremation societies are licensed establishments that are overseen by, the funeral service commission boards, whatever. Now, in states like Florida, you have a separate license which is just a direct disposer. That is not a funeral director. That is just somebody that went out and opened a crematory, has a licensed crematory. They can only offer direct disposition. So the decedent comes into our care, cremated remains are, the body is cremated, the cremated remains are returned to the family. That is it. There's no other services or anything like that. And there are a couple other states that have the distinguishing licenses. Pennsylvania does not. But yeah, I mean, again, you get what you pay for to an extent. If you want someone that is going to sit down with you and walk you through everything, and you're not going to be rushed, you're going to be able to come in and sit down face to face with somebody. Yeah, there are differences, but there are rights for everybody. So I think we talked about it on the phone the other day. If you walk into a funeral establishment or a funeral home and you're expecting, the plaza services, that's how you want to be treated. You're gonna have, a difference than the price of the Ramada Inn or the Best Western. Some folks don't want to be troubled with death because death is an inconvenience to them. So they prefer to be able to pick up the phone, never have to get off their couch, and be able to do all their paperwork and not have to worry about anything. But then there are other folks that want to have someone hold their hand and walk beside them through the entire journey. Right. So that's why they want a funeral home. So there is, a demographic that would want a cremation society or a direct disposer, but then there are others that would want a funeral establishment. But I think the biggest concern or problem that we see is that the distinguishing factors between a direct cremation and then anything else. So a direct cremation is just as it sounds. Yeah. You're notified, you're brought into the care, the paperwork, the authorizations are completed, and then the cremation takes place. Because technically, if you deviate from anything outside the description of what you're describing as a direct cremation, you're then, by the FTC supposed to go complete itemization for a full professional service fee and things like that. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes cremation cases are more challenging to get through than a full traditional funeral, because of whether there is paperwork, the paperwork, your permitting, your authorizations, and making sure that we're dealing with all the necessary authorizing agents. Because I am one that if there are multiple authorizing agents that are multiple siblings, I require every sibling to sign.
Yeah.
And the main reason being is a lot of people will say, well, isn't the law you have to have a majority? Well, absolutely. But my rules that I operate by cannot be less stringent than the law. There's nothing that says they can't be more stringent. It's just saying it can't be less. And why do I require all signatures? Because as soon as I decide, okay, I've got 2 of the 3, and I move forward with that cremation, and that cremation takes place, that third person's going to call. And they're going to say, well, I never wanted mom or dad or whomever to be cremated. And now I'm going to sue you. Mm-hmm. And the difference between wrongful cremation and breach of contract is very simple. Breach of contract, you can only get compensated back the amount of the contract. Wrongful cremation, the man in the black robe and the 12 people in that box decide how many zeros you have to write on the check. So I'm going to err on the side of caution and make sure we have all the folks sign.
Yeah.
It's very sad that people, and they get mad at us. They get mad, but it protects them as well. Because guess what? It's not just the funeral home that's going to be sued. One is going to be the funeral director, the funeral home, probably the supervisor, and the folks that authorize the cremation.
Yeah. It's all about educating. This is why we have to continue talking, because maybe people just aren't aware of that.
Tabitha said, Catherine came out to my house when my husband died unexpectedly. I didn't know what was doing. She was wonderful.
Hi, Tabby. Tabby's amazing. I was pregnant. I think I was pregnant with Max when I went out on that call. Yeah. I remember. Yeah. Her husband was an amazing man. Very well, a respected man in the community for sure.
Is there a length of time you can keep loved one's mom and dad at home before they are interred if you have already paid for the plot?
Keep them as long as you want.
Embalmed? Because are we talking about cremated remains?
I think so.
Okay. Yeah, if cremated remains, that is one of the benefits of cremation. Is there after the cremation is completed, there's no rush. That's exactly what they sign. We get a copy of their identification. I even am, if someone is out of state and we actually have to either snail mail something to somebody, I require that the authorization has to be signed in the presence of a notary, and a notarial certificate accompany the original authorization back. That way I know exactly who signed that authorization, because it wasn't signed in my presence.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people realize all the checks and balances that need to take place for a cremation. And you know what? It's not just for cremation, Dee Dee. There are checks and balances in place even for burial. Need to know who can authorize what. Attention to detail is critical, because God forbid you show up for your first viewing and that loved one is in the wrong casket, or that loved one is wearing the wrong clothing. And these are all horror stories of things that have happened before. Mm-hmm. Not with us. Please understand that, but just in the profession.
Did you hear that gong sound?
Yeah, I think I hit my little.
Oh, I thought it was okay.
The microphone. I hit it with my arm. That's more sound effects that I'm adding. I found out how to add sound effects, so this show's about to get to a whole different level, by the way.
It sounds like it. Too funny. See, we have a sense of humor. And for anyone who said that, we need to stop doing videos and talking about the steps, we're done. I don't know. We just had to have fun with that. Because there was another video that was put out the other day that was quickly deleted after it was put out, but Chris saw it. So, yeah.
You never know what might happen.
Yeah. We're not charging you by step. We charge accordingly. Nautical Funeral Home, though, I think we need to get some T-shirts made.
For
what?
We have to get T-shirts made
for Nautical Funeral Home.
Oh, I said I'm going to do that this afternoon. They'll be live by this afternoon on the bonfire thing.
I was getting ready, and I'm like, I gotta get ChatGPT to help me with this image. So I'm like, ChatGPT, put Chris and I in a boat. I told ChatGPT what to do. And I didn't text you before I posted that, but I knew.
No, I was drinking my coffee, getting ready to post my post, and I open up my feed, and that's the first thing. Literally, I across the counter, done. And the best part about it is people took it upon themselves to update them. Did you see the one where they put the guy from Bernie from Weekend at Bernie's between you and I? Yeah.
Yep.
And again, it's just, guys, Folks, we are here to have fun. We are here because guess what? if we couldn't have fun every once in a while, we would go insane.
Mm-hmm.
We see some of the things that you would hope that I personally hope you never have to see in your life.
Yeah.
And, for us to be able to have an outlet and to be able to communicate and educate and continue to bring awareness to things, that's why we do what we do. Absolutely 110%.
Yeah.
They love the picture. Yeah, I think Nautical Funeral Home will get something out. And again, guy, the proceeds from that stuff, because again, I got taken to well, I think it was generally to Catherine, because the lady seemed to have followed you on Berg and just completely went like far left field. And I mean, I got a little ticked off and heated. So if you go to the actual post where we've posted the bonfire website stuff, where the shirts and the mugs are, you'll see the thread there with this woman, who, come to find out, her and her husband own funeral homes, and they're very in tune with their community and that stuff. But says, the way that we're going about things is, like I said, just cheapening the profession, and that the message is so this, that, and the third. And I even said, instead of coming on here and saying that, why wouldn't you ask what we're planning on using? Well, not that we have a duty to explain what we're going to do with things to anyone, but again, we're all about transparency and education. That type of stuff, like this streaming software we use to stream to the different channels and stuff, this all costs money.
Mm-hmm.
The microphones, all that type of stuff, the Apple podcast, we have to pay to post to that, and the Spotify stuff, all that's things. And in order to get that out to everybody, it costs money.
Yeah.
But also what we would like to do is to take some of those funds and be able to help folks, the baby undertakers, the newly licensed folks that, normally wouldn't be able to go to an NFDA or an ICCFA unless they were in their own backyard. We'd like to, as the hearse turns, to be able to send, one student or a new licensees type thing to those conventions to learn, to get education.
And just for what it's worth, like that ICCFA conference that I went to, now full transparency, they reached out and they asked us to promote ICCFA on our social media. And in return, we would get, I think there were two tickets, or one or two tickets that were given to us free of charge to get in. But the one I know at least for Dakota, I think we paid for Dakota to get in. His ticket was over $1,000. I'm pretty sure.
And that's probably just for the trade show.
Yes. Yeah.
Because there's different levels of tickets.
$25 ticket. I mean, these are expensive tickets.
And that's before lodging, meals, air transportation to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm trying to find. All right, so NFDA's Expo is in October. I'm trying to see, because I know NFDA tickets just for the Expo floor are a little bit more reasonable, but if you want to attend any of the CEUs and things like that, it's not cheap. It's not cheap at all. So, that's the type of stuff we're looking at. It's not just saying, hey, go ahead and buy this stuff because, and let me tell you something, folks. We don't make much on the merchandise stuff. We're talking a couple dollars here or there. Unless, I start printing them, and maybe I can make Skylar start like printing t-shirts or something. But, again, it's just the thought of being able to do this. And we want to see this platform grow to get out to more folks. And that's stuff that will happen over time. But, we've talked about maybe, sponsors from different manufacturers and different companies, because there were other funeral service podcasts that, are actually sponsored by, chemical companies, mortuary supply companies and stuff like that. So Cindy said, I went to dinner last night with friends, and one of my friends was talking about a funeral she attended this week. And I look at my husband and say, I'm invoking my internal Catherine. I want to ask so many questions. My husband chuckled because he knows I watch you guys all the time.
Awesome. Cindy, I love that.
Joyce says, you're not cheapening the profession. You're taking the fear and mystery out of it. Yep. And, I think we should add in, we two funeral directors, one honest conversation and holding folks accountable. That's where it comes down to for this stuff as well. Accountability.
There's
Deborah said, came and got my mom and did an excellent job.
Hey, Deborah.
Oh, hold on. You two should have all of your children design a t-shirt and sell it for the Children's Foundation. Would definitely buy one.
It's a great idea.
Is that the hospice thing that you were talking that you did on the webpage?
Me?
Children's, wasn't that over in Lancaster County?
Oh yeah, for the Sunflower Pediatric Program. Yeah. It was so cute the other day. I went to go take Max into daycare, and in his basket, of course the kids have like their little cubbies. He had all of his artwork, and for Mother's Day, he planted me a little flower, and then it was a sheet like all about my mom. And Nate has it in his, or no, actually I did. I taped it up in my desk area, but it said, what is something about like your mom's profession? And he said helping friends.
I used that the other morning for one of my coffee thing. Or I think it was like one Sunday after I came back from actually embalming. So I got done doing that, had arrangements. I didn't even say embalming. I said, as my buddy Max would say, helping friends or caring for friends, something like that.
Yeah. He also said that I had white eyes and pink hair, and that he loves when I feed him Pop-Tarts. And I don't buy Pop-Tarts, so I don't know.
Is there a different mother you don't know about?
What?
Is there a different mother you don't know about?
Yeah, I guess. It was so cute.
So Mary says, this is so untrue. She is still old school. I have followed a funeral director from Winnipeg, and he did it so vulnerable people would not get taken by funeral homes. He is awesome. So I think she's just saying we're not trying to cheapen the profession, that you are still old school, and that she follows somebody else from Winnipeg that did the same thing, so that vulnerable people would not get taken advantage of, and that funeral director in Winnipeg is awesome. Insurance alone costs constantly increases, even though we have no claims. Everyday people know this is true with their personal insurance goes up every year. And then thank you all for all that you do. I've always feared death and always wondered what happens with a body when the funeral takes in the person into their care. I've learned a lot from you, Catherine, and thank you for giving me less fear. I'm grateful for all that you do.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you think we touched on everything that we?
Yeah.
I know there's a lot we want to say, but we have to be careful, But I think if everybody does their due diligence, they'll know who to utilize and who not to utilize.
Yeah.
And so I mean, big week this week.
Yes, we have our first funeral service on Monday, and
out of the new location. We're finally settled in. That's been wonderful. Open houses, our first 2 days of open houses are completely sold out. Tuesday, we have a couple openings left, but yeah, we're going to throw some other dates out there at some point in the near future for additional open houses, but the response has been amazing. Our community's been incredibly supportive. It's been a lot. It was a really long week. I said to Nate today when we were in the car, I feel like I can finally rest. So after we hop off here, I'm going to go downstairs and just lay on the sofa and watch Netflix. But it was a constant, it was just nonstop this week. I think every day I was at the funeral home at least by 6:30. Yeah. And then Thursday night? We had the videographer and you guys were there late Thursday, absolutely.
Yeah, I never got home till 8:30, I think. So that was
and what was it? Friday? I know Friday when I left, it was after 5. with you and Nate, and I think you guys were still there because I know Nate ran over to get Max from daycare.
Yes, yeah, it was a busy week, but we're all settled in and lots of good things happening, and then we have all of our open houses starting on
weekend
Sunday. Yeah.
Now, Keith did say you guys should develop a top 10 questions to ask a funeral director when interviewing possible. I like that, when interviewing possible funeral directors as part of the pre-planning process. We've done a great job educating. And you know what? Somebody also sent a message and said we should do, actually, it was Mary Ellen. She sent it to me on my personal account. And I thought, we can actually, through this software, we can do it. Through the studio here, that we need to give a seminar online about what to do from the moment of death to the end, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
Now, what we can do is we'd have to figure out a way. Maybe Holly can show us how. Maybe we'll do a free Eventbrite, and we'll limit it. We'll maybe do a couple of them, but limited to a couple seats per, like 20 or 30 seats per, so it's not overwhelming. And actually have a live, and this will be an opportunity, like you would be able to interact through this platform with Catherine and I and ask questions.
Yeah.
I think that might be something we'll do. I know that let's get through the open houses, and then I know right after open houses, I'm gone for a little while, and then
you and Addie and Chad are going on vacation, and I'm going to be responsible for 2 funerals.
Hey, all I got to say is, whoever approved it, Catherine and Nate.
We'll get through it. And this is why we have a trade embalmer that we can lean on if need be. Holly is the administrative assistant. She can help me with paperwork. We have support. We'll be good. You go enjoy your vacation.
But we'll figure out something like that on the way back. And then, because even though we're all gone, because I think then you guys are on a cruise again.
We go in August. Yeah.
August. Yeah. But so this Thursday we have Carlton.
Mm-hmm.
Then June, we have Ruth Ann. July, guys, let me tell you something. Make sure you have July on your calendars. Block out that 6 to 8 2-hour time frame. And because you are not, I can just, that show, Catherine, me, and Ryan, that's going to be a show you do not want to miss.
Yep.
And then August we have Dwayne. I can't even remember September.
Monica.
We have Monica in September, and then in October, because we thought we were up through October, so we'll have to let Tim know.
Yeah.
Tim will be October. We do not have anybody.
Tim, if you're watching this, you're October.
Which that's going to be another very good discussion.
Yeah.
And then we'll be into November, and it's just crazy. Like, thank you guys. Like, I don't think that we thought this would grow as quickly as it has, and it's continuing to grow. And just the engagement. So, and before we went live, me and Catherine talk a couple minutes here and there. And we were just, I had said, even with the negativity and the negative Nancy's, or, the Ken and Karen type comments and stuff like that, it's the positivity outweighs the negative. It truly does. But that's just something to keep in mind. So again, please continue to like, follow, share. If you don't get to catch it live on Facebook, make sure you're following us and subscribe to us on the YouTube channel, because that's where everything gets stored for ever.
Yes.
So, but yes, if you want to, just so you guys are aware, for Thursday, Carlton is a funeral director out of Georgia, and he is currently running for the secretary of the National Funeral Directors Association, which that election is in June. But Carlton is great. He's an educator with Gupton Jones. With Pierce Colleges out of Georgia. Catherine, do you have the date for Ryan in July? Somebody's asking for it in the comments. It's normally, I think it's the third Thursday, not the second, because I think he's got college with one of the girls.
Why do I want to say?
Is it the 16th?
I want to say the 17th.
That's a Friday.
Okay, then it's the 16th.
Yeah, I've got it on. So I just pulled up our calendar. I've got July 16th at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yes. Yep.
Right. But so make sure you guys are. So for Carlton, so if you have questions about for a funeral director that is also a mortuary science educator, professor, make sure you send them over. If you have questions about the National Funeral Directors Association, make sure you send those over. And please, 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 please message them directly to the As the Hearse Turns page. A lot of people sometimes think we delete comments, but sometimes Facebook automatically hides them for whatever. And we don't have any type of, I went in and checked this morning. We don't have parameters set for our page to auto hide anything.
Clearly, because one came through with the F word yesterday.
Yeah.
Now, listen, if you are inappropriate consistently, we are going to block you.
Yeah. Like, I'll give you a fair warning. I'll tell you that, and edit your comment. You know what I mean? I made the video the other day. You can disagree with us. That is what this is about. If you want to disagree, you can. However, the vulgarness and, the rudeness, the attacks, there's zero tolerance for that. That's not for this. And that's not only the rudeness toward me or toward Catherine, that's toward any of our followers here and the As the Hearse Turns community family. We are not going to allow that to happen.
Right.
That's that. There's zero tolerance for that. I don't need you. I don't care if it goes down to 3 followers. I'm not going to tolerate that. Catherine's not going to tolerate that. That's not what this is about.
Yeah.
But all right. Ron did ask. Now that is Monday afternoon, right?
Monday morning. Movers show up at 9 a.m. They're going to my dad's office first because I've been storing in a really old organ at my dad's office for like the last 5 years. It was gifted to me from someone locally. It's not an organ that we can play. It's going to just be for display and for show at the funeral home. And then they're going from my dad's office over to the old location at Broadway. And then they're going down to the new location from there. And again, we just have to strategically plan because we have a funeral service going on Monday.
Yeah.
So by the time that service is wrapping up, the movers should be pulling in and we can unpack. But
so Monday you will officially be out?
Out.
Technically not till Wednesday, because Nate won't let me take the hearse until Wednesday. I still got to get my hearse out of the Broadway garage.
Yep.
So nobody turned in their keys until I get the hearse. But thank you guys for joining us. Enjoy your Saturday, and we will see you all on Thursday, unless there are any reason for any surprise videos in response to anything that we've said.
Yeah.
Because you never know. But thank you, and you guys have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day.